Hi and welcome to Swedish Plant Guys. Have you ever wondered how plants can look absolutely perfect in the store or coming from the growers? But then after a while, they're not looking like that anymore. Well, in this video, we give you 5 quick tips on how you can make your older plants look new, fresh and healthy again. So, first of all, plants are not looking perfect. Not at the growers and not in the store. There's actually some work behind this. So, when you buy a plant, it doesn't look like this, really, because big garden centers or big growers actually have dedicated staff that has the one job of making sure that every plant that leaves the greenhouse looks perfect. So they have so-called trim staff that makes sure that they look like this. So I'm going to show you some tips on how you can make your older plants look like this again. Now, the best way of keeping your plants looking fresh and healthy is of course by taking care of them in a perfect manner. And that depends on what type of species you have and what requirements that species have, of course. But over a period of time in your home, because you don't have the perfect environment, it's going to look not perfect. So here are 5 tips on how you can make them look perfect. So to be able to show you this, I have an assistant today that I actually brought from my own home. Now, this is a Aglonema Maria, also known as a Chinese evergreen. And this comes from my home. I've actually owned this plant for, I think, about 7 years. It's been standing in the same self-watering pot here for 7 years. And it's not looking perfect, I have to admit that. But it is feeling good. There's no real problems with this plant. So I'm going to make a small makeover for this plant, making it look fresh and healthy again without harming the plant. So number 1, remove all dead material on the plant. Now it can be dead leaves, it can be dead flowers, it can be dead seed pods, dead seed pods. Remove everything that has expired on the plant. So I'll start by doing that. I'll remove everything that is dead here. And on this plant we actually have old flowers, we have some old seed pods, I think we have some old leaves as well. So just remove them. And be careful when you remove them because you don't want to hurt any of the live parts of the plant. Inside of this plant we actually have an old stem that has died off. So I'm going to cut that off as well. And I'll take that as far down as I possibly can. But I always start by just trying to pull it a little bit. If you can just pull it straight out of the pot, that's the best thing because then you get everything. But this is actually quite firm. So I'm going to try and cut this stem as far down as I possibly can. Now always use a clean shearer or a scissor that you've cleaned and disinfected if you can, but make sure that it's clean before you use it on the plant. And as we can see here, it's not completely dead because where we've made the cut, you can see that it's still very much alive. It also has a little bud here that could potentially grow out, but we'll throw this away as well. There. Now I have cleaned off all of the dead material on this plant. Next step is, of course, making sure to get rid of all yellow leaves as well. When a leaf turns bright yellow, it will never go back to be green again. So we can count it as dead even if it's not really dead yet, but we can remove it from the plant without harming the plant. So I'll remove the yellow leaves as well. And when we're removing a leaf that is not really dead yet, make sure to be a little bit or even more careful, because they're still quite attached to the stem here. So you could potentially harm the stem if you just pull them. So either use a scissor, or as I do, I actually go down to where the leaf meets the stem, where the node is, and I just create a pressure between the stem and the leaf and just pull the leaf off. But be sure that you are careful that you're not harming the stem. Now we can show you how I do this on this one here. I take the leaf in my hand here, and then I put one finger on the stem, and at the same time I'm actually pulling on the leaf here. So my finger here acts as a support for the stem as I do that pulling, like that. Then the stem is intact and it's not harmed. Now maybe you didn't see, it took quite a lot of time to do this, and this is the result we get. That's quite a lot. So now we've removed all of the dead material, all the yellow leaves, and everything that shouldn't be on this plant. Now, it's still not looking perfect. And we have some of the leaves that are partially damaged, like this one here. We actually have, because this is standing a little bit too light, it is actually standing in a window where it gets direct sunlight. We have some sunburns on some of these leaves here. Now, I'm not going to take off this leaf. I'm actually going to leave it because it is healthy. It's mostly still green and nice. So what you can do is number 2 here. You can trim the leaf. Now, by trimming is not removing the leaf. Trimming is actually making a cut with a sharp scissor. Now, when I make this trimming cut here, I'm actually going to follow the contours of the leaf here and try and create a leaf shape, even though I'm cutting off a part of the leaf. So we'll do it right here. Now, if we look closely to this leaf, we will see that it is trimmed, that it is cut with a scissor. However, if we look at this plant from a distance, you will never see that. And I've kept a leaf that is perfectly fine left on the plant. So if I remove that leaf, I'm actually removing one of the solar panels that is helping this plant to photosynthesize and be healthy. So now I'm just going to look to see if there are more leaves that needs some trimming. Now I have one leaf here that is actually showing me something else. These markings here are not just from direct sunlight. I can see that the whole leaf here is slightly faded, and I now see that there are actually some pests on this plant. I haven't seen that before, so hopefully this is just the beginning and I can do something about this instantly. Now, on this leaf we have something here. It's actually sitting on the main vein on the leaf here, and I can see that the whole leaf is starting to get a little bit faded. So what I'm going to do here is actually remove this entire leaf because I want to take those pests away. Then when I'm finished here today, I'm actually going to go through and see if I can find more pests, and then we will use a pesticide on this plant. Now I have another leaf here that is actually a little bit bent, and that is probably not going to recover from that, so I'll remove that as well. There you go. That is trimming when you are cutting some of the leaves. Now, what's going to happen to these leaves here is that it can, when the wounds heal here, it can actually give you a small hint of some brownish color on that trimming. It's not necessary, but usually it will show you a little bit. If it does that, and if you are bothered by that, remove the leaf completely. But if it's not a problem for you, just leave it because it is photosynthesizing, it's helping the plant. And of course, the result of that little brown here is better than it was before I made the cut. So it might not look perfect, but it is better. Otherwise, remove the leaf completely. Number 3, now it's time to take out the cloth. Now this is a microfiber cloth used for cleaning your house, cleaning your home. You can use any type of cloth. What I want you to do is to soak this in water. It is damp. It's not wet, but it's damp. Now we're going to take this and we're going to use this on the leaves on the entire plant. And I want you to do this around once a month in your home. By doing that, you are achieving 2 things. First of all, you are removing all of the dust on the leaves. Now, that dust is actually skin particles from you and all of the others living in your home that are landing on the leaves. And if there are too much dust on the leaves, it can actually prevent the stomatas from functioning. Now, what is the stomatas? Well, best way of putting it is that they are small windows on the leaves, on the top and bottom of the leaves, that can open and close. And those opening and closing stomatas are actually regulating the water flow inside of the plant, which is a huge thing. So if the stomatas does not work, you can get problems with your plant. So we're removing the dust and making sure that the stomatas work. Now, the other upside to using this cloth on the plant is actually, I saw that we had some pests here. Now, by using the cloth and cleaning off the leaves, we're actually taking away those pests as well. The more thorough you are, the better. But if you know that you have pests on the plant, make sure that you clean this properly before going to another plant and cleaning that off, because you could be transferring the pests. So I'm going to clean this off with a damp cloth. Now, the cameraman just said to me that it looks like I'm a bit rough with this plant. Well, I've been doing this for over 20 years, so I know exactly how rough I can be with the plant. You should be very careful when handling the leaves because you could break them or injure them. So be very gentle, but they can withstand quite a lot more than you think. But this is just an experience. So when you've done this a couple of times, you know exactly how tough you can be for the plant without harming it. And of course, this is just going to make it look better. It's going to look healthy. It's going to look fresh by just a cloth and water. Now, this procedure with the damp cloth, you can perform on almost any type of plants. Most plants will just enjoy this and reward you with new healthy growth and just looking good. Now, before we leave this, I just need to tell you that never ever use a product called Leaf Shine. It's not. It will make the plant look shiny, it will make the plant look a little bit better, but by putting chemicals on that plant, you're actually not helping the plant. You're just creating a healthy looking plant. What can happen with most leaf shine products is that when you've sprayed that on the plant and it looks good, what actually happens is that the dust that falls on those leaves, when they look like that, actually start to clog the stomatas. They will hinder, in the long run, will hinder the small windows from opening and closing. So don't use leaf shine, just use a damp cloth once a month and you will get healthy, shiny looking leaves. Number 4 is pruning. Now, pruning is something I know a lot of people are afraid of doing. They're afraid of harming the plant, they're afraid of doing something they shouldn't. Well, pruning is a good thing. Now, we have a video on pruning you can go and watch if you want to know more on how to prune and what to think about and in what time of year you should be pruning your plant. But know this, that pruning is a good thing. It actually promotes growth. It actually promotes the plant to be healthy and looking good. By pruning, you have a lethal weapon of choosing how your plant is going to look in the future. Now, this is a Chinese evergreen. This really wants all the time to become thicker and thicker and thicker. This is a plant that doesn't grow very tall, it grows thick instead. Now, I have this in a very shallow pot here. So what I can do to make this be healthy and not be sad that it cannot be thicker is that I can prune. So I prune this plant maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And I do that because as soon as I start to prune it, all of that energy is going to go to sending out new buds, new shoots on that stem that I have pruned. And by doing that, it's not focusing on sending new shoots along the soil level here and becoming thicker. So by pruning it, I'm actually redirecting the energy to working up here instead of working down here. So by doing that, I can keep this in a very shallow pot. And I'm going to do that. I have a little bit too much stems here now. I need to thin this out to make sure that it's not going to start to grow on the sides here. So I'll just choose one of the largest stems and I'm going to prune that off. Now, when pruning, we always prune in between 2 nodes. Now, a node is where a leaf is coming out of a stem. That part directly by the stem, that is the node. So by trimming in between 2 leaves, you're actually trimming in between 2 nodes. That is called an internode. So that is what we're trying to find here. But on a Chinese evergreen, the leaves are quite dense. So you only have maybe 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters in between the leaves. So if you make a mistake here, it's not a big deal. What will happen is that if you cut a node on a node instead of above a node or in between 2 nodes, that node is not going to function. But what will happen on this Chinese evergreen is that it will just start to grow on the node below it. So it's not a problem if you miss. So I think I'll take away this quite thick, heavy stem here that is quite large. So I'll just go in and I'll trim it quite further down on the stem here because I want to keep this a low shrub because I don't have that much room in the window that this is placed in. So I want to keep it small, not growing big. So I'll cut it quite further down on the stem here, in between 2 nodes if possible. There you go. And of course, now we can use this to create a new plant if we want to. We just put this in some water. If you want to know more about how to propagate plants, you can just watch any of our propagating videos. Number 5. The last thing you can do with your plants, and this is something I want you to do not every month as in using the cloth method, but every now and again. just take your plant to the shower, or if you can, take it outside and rinse it off with a hose. And try and rinse all of the leaves on top and underneath. This, just like we did before, the cloth here actually helps to remove the dust, but by showering it, you're giving it that little bit extra. And also, you're also making it harder for the pests to attack the plant. And it will also give you that extra small shine to the plant. Now, the most important thing here is that you try and cover the soil down by the roots here, because if you shower this, you could get too much water. Now, it's not a problem when using a self-watering container like this, because you can just pour out the excess water. But so depending on how you planted your plant, make sure just to cover that. You can cover it with a plastic bag, just some towels or something, just to make sure that you're not getting too much water in the soil. So now we are done with this plant for now. Well, actually, I'm not quite done, because I'm actually going to use a pesticide here to make sure that that pest problem doesn't get worse. But as you can see here, there is a huge difference from how it looked in the beginning. And it looks quite healthy. It looks almost new. So if I can take up a newer plant here, it almost looks the same. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps our channel a lot. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do. Hit the bell as well so you get a notification every time we put up something new. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can get sneak previews on upcoming videos and sometimes a little bit more. Now until next time, hej då!